Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. As we move on to, let's say, the Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos State is the center of the country's banking industry, technology hub, manufacturing, as well as thriving music, fashion, and film sector. In 2017, the Lagos State had an output of $36 billion, more than a third of Nigeria's gross domestic product, and more than 100% of several countries' GDP in Africa. It is therefore without saying that the Lagos State is the governor of Lagos State is a president of sorts. And joining us this morning is PDP's governorship candidate, Jimi Agbaje, to tell us why he should be the next governor of Lagos State. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you on.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, nice to be here.
This is the second time on the morning
Yes,
show.
my second time on Rise News.
The last time you were here, you didn't want to tell us anything. Did you know that you were going to be
Well, a lot of water
contesting?
has passed under the bridge since then. Yeah, I think strategically it was better not to tell you anything.
Oh, so you knew and you were just hiding in
Like you said, you wanted to keep your mandate close to your chest.
Yes. It was part of the strategy.
Let's go straight into
That's
it.
very good.
A statement credited to you and signed by your media, your director for media and publicity, said that voting Sanwo-Olu is giving Bola Tinubu a 6th term in Lagos. What does that say about your candidacy and the People's Democratic Party in Lagos State? If he has successfully done it for 5 terms, why are you contesting again?
Well, they say that, a dynasty runs, and at some point in time, there is the end of a dynasty. What you've had is, by May 29th, you'd have the same people that have been in government, more or less, for the last 20 years. So basically what I believe he was saying was that Lagos State really has been under the thumb, so to say, of 1 or 2 what we call vested interests that have actually run up and down over Lagos.
There must be a problem with your party, your candidacy, if one person has been able to rule Lagos this long. Don't you think so?
I'm not even sure it's got to do with just the party alone. I think what we're going to tell the people is that maybe we have not been looking at the right things. Maybe we don't realize that we're being shortchanged. And that's why that, you've had the same people coming, in charge for so long.
So what would make 2019 different from 2015, 2011, 2007, 2003, and 1999?
Well, let me say that what's different is that we're going to let the electorate know that Lagos is not doing well. Lagos deserves better. We're going to show that Lagos is not doing well because, like we say, it's about one man rather than the people. I think the way I like to put it is that we've got to understand that we're comparing Lagos with other states in Nigeria. Lagos is the 5th largest economy. In your intro, you were talking about it being the industrial, the commercial hub. The truth is that Lagos is no longer the industrial hub in Nigeria. We've lost that to the neighboring states. So we've lost that in Lagos. It still remains a commercial hub. So it's not doing as well as it should. It's the 5th largest economy in Africa. Lagos economy is bigger than Ghana and Kenya combined. Lagos economy is bigger than 11 African countries combined. So what we're saying is that we shouldn't get away with small successes and think we're doing well. Lagos is a mega city. Now, for a mega city, Lagos is what? Number 138, 139. It swings between 137, 138, 139 out of 140 cities in the world in terms of livability. In other words, how well are we living in Lagos? Lagos is one of the only 2 mega cities in this world that doesn't have a transport system, in terms of rail, in terms of multimodal and integrated multimodal system. It's only one of 2 mega cities. So what we're saying is that, hi, Lagosians, and this is what, 7 trillion. Lagos in the last 20 years has spent 7 trillion naira. I'm not sure that you can imagine what that kind of figure is. And we're asking, we're telling Lagosians and saying, what have you got for 7 trillion naira? Mm-hmm. What have you really got for 7 trillion naira? Is education really fantastic? Is health fantastic? Is traffic good? Is there power?
All right.
What
so
is good about Lagos?
In specific terms, what would you be doing differently?
That's what we're saying. We're going to do things differently.
What?
And we're saying that we've got one. We're talking about jobs, youth.
Okay.
Our youth, the youth that are coming out are not prepared, are not being properly prepared for the economy of today, of the 21st century. So you've got to get your education right. Education today is about innovation. Education, today is about having entrepreneurial skills. You're not doing that. I mean, when we look at the world today, and everybody's talking about the Zuckerbergs, the Facebook, the Bill Gates, and all that. These are people that succeeded not from university education.
Okay.
They succeeded from their basic education. Now, we're not providing that kind of basic education for our own youth, and therefore they're not prepared. We're not providing the kind of basic education that pushes them into the creative industry in a way that they can hold their own, And these are some of the things that we have to go back to in terms of education. You talk about the healthy nation being a wealthy nation. Again, God forbid any of us is going to fall ill. Lagos in the 21st century must have a health system that is sustainable. There must be universal access to health, affordable, available. 20 years after, 7 trillion naira after, we still don't have that. So we're saying that we're going to, and I can roll it and tell you exactly how. You have, like I said, a transportation system that doesn't work for us. We have a Lagos where you spend 3 hours coming to work in the morning, you spend 3 hours going back, and you probably have just about 4 hours sleep. It's not even so much the sleep again. If you're a family person, you don't see your children, you don't see anybody. So you're talking about a society that is losing even its morality, because there's no way to put the children through. So we're saying to traffic, if you look at traffic, I don't know, there's traffic gridlock. There are those that have lost lives in traffic. There are those that have lost job interviews. I have gone to the airport and I've had to go on Okada on quite a number of occasions so I can catch my flight. And I'm saying that should that be happening in the Lagos of the 21st century, a Lagos that has spent, 7 trillion naira in 20 years?
All right, let me tell you. So people are saying their complaints about you that people only get to see you every 4 years after every defeat.
After every defeat?
Yes.
That sounds like it's every 4. This is my third time. It's not
your
every
third
4
time,
years.
yes. Yes. So, and then you disappear from the public consciousness and then resurface during the election cycle to seek the votes of the people.
Yeah.
How would you respond to your critics in this regard?
I'll say that it's not true. And I'll put it like this. I don't go to sleep every 4 years. You can say that I change my tactics, so to say. I spend the last 4 years talking to the younger ones, encouraging them. I've done motivational talks. I've even run for my party chairmanship, national party chairmanship. That was politics. I was running for the office of national chairman, believing that at some point in time, after the loss in 2015, that my party, the PDP, needed a new face, and I felt that I would come up with that. So it wouldn't be correct to say that I just go to sleep. I think again people must understand that we run a presidential system, and that's different from the British system. It's like we're coming from the British orientation, so to say, where you have in the British parliamentary system you have the shadow government, you have the leader of the opposition. And that leader, so once you're a leader of opposition, it means you continue to challenge the prime minister. Once you're a shadow minister in your ministry, you continue to shadow, to tackle the authentic or the minister in charge. Now that's the British system. The presidential system is different. The presidential system, you're a gubernatorial candidate. You run your elections, and if you've lost, you step back, and the party takes over. Now, the party takes over in terms of the party, in terms of your elected officials. That's the way the presidential system works. So you find that it is the senators, the reps, and co. that really should be talking, not the candidate. And it's easy. If you look at the last elections in America, Hillary Clinton ran. You're not hearing anything from her. Even when President Trump continues to hammer her, she keeps quiet. Obama was president. He stepped back. He's kept quiet. The only time you saw him come out was with the midterm elections, and that's how the presidential system works. And I think we have to get it right. Now, again, when you are no longer a gubernatorial candidate, you are not a leader of the party. And so you will run into trouble when you begin to talk about leadership issues, because again, don't forget that they are leaders of the party, you know, and so that's a reality. There were one or two issues. I think some people, for example, said, oh, when the toll gate thing came up, they didn't hear Jimi Agbaje, you know, and I'm like, what did you want to hear from me? Jimi Agbaje was very clear in 2015 that he was going to scrap that toll gate. I was very, very clear that that toll gate would be. So the elections came, went, and they increased the toll. You want me to come and protest an increase when I've already made it clear that I don't even believe in this toll?
Sir, if I may interject at this point while you're speaking on party structures and how you work within a party structure. The major edge that your primary opponent, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, of the ruling APC has over you is the funding that will be at his disposal. His campaign billboards have been dispersed across the state for several weeks, while yours, which only came up at the weekend, were vandalized within hours of their erection. How are you going to raise money for your election and overcome this stumbling block likely to be put in your way by your opponent and his supporters?
Well, you know, when you have a good product, you get funding. And that's the way it works. This is my third time running. I'm not a billionaire, you know, so it's that people have supported a good product. So once they believe that Jimi Agbaje is a good candidate, then you get funding. And when I say funding, you get support, not necessarily even in terms of money, even in terms of service. You know, there are many things that do happen that would cost me a lot of money, but I wouldn't have to pay, because there are people that will say, you know, Jimmy, for you, we'll give it to you free. And that's how we've always run. We ran in that way in 2007, in 2015, and we're running again in for 2019. Stories had come up that, oh, Jimmy's not going to be able to do anything. Well, they can see the boards were brought down, the boards are back up. That shows that, I mean, we are funding this campaign.
But this is an optimistic view, considering the activities of the federal government to block avenues of funding for PDP.
You know, when you're blocking, you can only block, illegal avenues. Illegal avenues. What kind of funding do we need? We need, like I said, we've got professionals working with us who are working gratis. So we're not paying. We need to pay millions for those services. So it's free. So what we're paying is cost. So we need to have money to put posters. We're not going to compete in terms of how many posters we're going to put, because they have state resources.
But how will you allay the fears of members of the organized private sector who are nervous about funding PDP candidates, given the climate the federal government has created?
The reality is that you're not expected to fund within, you're expected to fund within the law. Within the law. I would rather have an organized private sector using their services, giving me their services free. I'm not looking for money just for money's sake. If what I want to use money for, let them give to me.
All right, so let's move on. In more specific terms, what programs and policies would you be bringing to the table in terms of taxes, continued growth of states' IGR, social and infrastructure amenities, and waste transportation management? And I'm sure, do you have a manifesto?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
you got a lot rolled in one there.
Yeah.
But let's put it like this. And I think talking about social intervention, I did mention something about health, for example. And I believe that in this century, 20 years after 7 trillion, we should have a sustainable health program. And we're very clear, and I've always been clear about this since 2007, that the model we need to run in Lagos is a health insurance model. Where the state pays for the citizens. Now, I'm not saying that from day one, we're going to do it for everybody, but you're going to phase it in, and you know that it's growing. You're going to run a health insurance scheme that is going to partner with the private sector, similar to what you have in the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, where you're having private practitioners that are attending to patients. The electorate will be choosing it will be their choice of doctors. Okay. And that brings about this thing. But you know what it does, because you're talking about social intervention,
yes,
is that it's going to be a program that the state is going to pay for, but it has to pay for with the local government.
Okay.
Now, so because it is the local government that must determine the citizens in their constituency. And that means for you to do that, they must pay part of it. Now, when they do pay part of it, it means that they're not going to be giving you names of anybody because it's going to cost them money. Now, that is the beginning of local government beginning to accept its responsibility. It's going to identify those that stay within its constituency. Do they qualify? Are they vulnerable, citizens? Are they not? Because when you then begin to set that up at the local government level, there are other programs that you can now build on it. So many programs you can build, because then the local government becomes that tier that is closest to the people and is responsible for the people. Presently, the only thing, the major thing the local governments do in Lagos is just a political machinery for the ruling party. It doesn't provide, it doesn't service, it doesn't fill potholes, it doesn't do anything for the people. And so that's the kind of thing we're talking about. You talked about waste.
Yes,
waste?
Which is a big deal in Lagos.
7 trillion naira after, we still don't have any waste system that's working for us. So we had said before, it's going to be a partnership. There is a recognition, because government has to look at many things. It's not a business. So you got a high unemployment rate in Lagos, and that means that the PSP still have a role to play, because if you don't give them employment, then they become your responsibility, or they should become your responsibility. So you give them job.
All right, since you mentioned talking about waste and how to actually tackle this waste problem, you've also mentioned 7 trillion and how nothing has actually been done with that amount. Waste
very little.
Very little has been done with that.
Yes.
Waste management and transportation management in Lagos has been a very key sector, which, of course, the incumbent governor right now, Akeem Amode, he was scored very low because of his handling of the waste and transportation, and he was even given a mandate by his party and his benefactors, talking about Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. And they use this to probably compensate for the boys in the grassroots and other things. How do you manage these key areas, and what do you want to do about them? Because certainly they use it in politics, so to speak. How you manage waste, transportation. How are you going to address this, and how do you want to restructure these particular sectors, the waste sector and also the transportation?
Let's talk transportation.
Yes.
And we've spoken a bit about waste. Let me talk about transportation. We have a BRT system, right?
Yes.
Now, the BRT system is not as effective as it used to be before. Why is it not so? Because, again, we talk about freedom, because there are vested interests in the BRT system. So you have a BRT today that the people of Lagos, you pay you buy your token for the day. You spend 4 hours trying to wait for a BRT bus. That token expires the same day, so you don't get to use it. You don't get to use it. Now, if you're observant, you will see that in the last 4 or 5 months, new buses have been brought into Lagos. There are a lot of new buses that have been brought in, but have not been used. They haven't been used because they are vested interests, because it is government that brought these new buses. The ones that we see, the blue buses we see today, are buses that vested interests have something to do with. Now, so by the time you deploy the new buses, it runs against the vested interests. And so the people of Lagos are suffering because of these vested interests. So rather than release those buses to the public, it's better to just tie down there, because they still want to make money as much as they can from the blue ones. You have a BRT system that provides for the black bus, the red, which is government owned, that is not allowed to run on BRT lanes.
So how do you seek to change? How would you change and reorganize this sectors?
When you analyze a problem, then the answer is easy. Is that those buses have a right to go on the BRT lane. It is because some people want to be the only ones to make money from BRT. It means that those new buses that have been there, we should beg government to please release them and let the people of Lagos enjoy the services of these buses. Now that's that. You talk about the light rail. Like I said, Lagos is one of the 2 mega cities that doesn't have a light rail, rail system to move its citizens. Now, we have a light rail, that the blue line, coming from the Okokomaiko end. We've been at it for 12 years. 12 years. And it's still not near completion, at least not for another 3-4 years. Addis Ababa, this is only in 3 years, 4 years. What is wrong? It's still vested interest. And I can tell you, with knowledge, with inside knowledge, that that light rail system should have started not from the blue line, but from the red line, because that was going to be a shorter route. It was going to be easier to do. But because of vested interests, they decided to do that more difficult one.
Okay, so
and we're
about Loma and Vision Scheme. Now let's move to waste management.
Right. You see, you're going to need the PSPs, like I was saying earlier on. But the PSPs cannot, in today's world, in fact, the kind of waste that we generate, you're going to need technology. You're going to need advanced mechanics to make it work. So it's going to be putting the two together. You're going to get the PSPs because, again, those trucks, the compactor trucks and co, cannot get into many areas of Lagos. The roads are just not there for them. The roads are too narrow for them. So you're going to get the PSPs to have a way of bringing refuse, bringing waste out. You're going to use the compactor trucks. You're going to use better compactor trucks, and so they come in handy. You're going to talk about the transfer loading stations. You're going to talk about waste processing. And that's why I said it's a combination. But it's not, I think the government, was in error by trying to do too much at the same time. And really what should have happened was to allow the PSPs to continue to do theirs while they bring their technology on. Again, maybe the government shouldn't have given it to one company, may have been divided into two. But the way Lagos State works, we don't have, we don't really have much say. They do what they like. We don't even have access to information from the state government.
You say you don't have much say. I'm thinking you're referring to the party, your party.
No, I'm talking about Lagosians.
Great.
A state like Lagos that has refused to domesticate its freedom of information bill.
Which is one of the things we are pushing for, the
Yes.
Freedom of Information Bill,
Yes.
the tax agency in the state,
Yes.
liberalizing the local government. Those
Yes.
are some of the things we want to
Yes,
do. But let me
correct.
take you back to something you said earlier in responding to why you only show up 4 years. In fact, some people say you're the Olympic candidate. You come up every 4 years.
Yeah, I think we all have.
But-
It's like they're also the Olympic 4 years for Fourth Mainland Bridge. Every election they talk about the Fourth Mainland
Let me,
Bridge.
let me ask you a question.
I like that.
You say Jimi Agbaje as a person
Yeah.
could not speak out because it's the function of the party to do that. But we have not seen the PDP take that role of an opposition in the state, a viable opposition. Yeah. Just over the weekend, the spokesperson of the APC in the state, Joe Ibukwe, said the PDP is a non-existent party in the state, let alone winning elections. So haven't you just confirmed what the ruling party says about your party?
No. If the PDP is a non-existing state party in the state, how did it achieve the results it achieved in 2015?
But why don't we see the PDP in front lines? I mean, Lagosians complained about dirty Lagos. Lagosians complained about traffic. Nothing was heard from the PDP.
I think there's a reality we must face that our party administration, I'm not talking about the PDP alone, across the board.
Let's talk about the PDP.
No, I'm saying that there's a general problem. Because I could also say that what has the APC done as a party in terms of a party in the last 4 years? Nothing. So I'm saying that there's a general problem with the way we operate our parties. Our parties are not yet what they should be. They do not, it's like they're also 4-year models or 4-year mechanisms. It's only when elections come that you hear. It's not limited to PDP. It's across the board. And that's a reality we must face. So to say that the PDP is not in existence, it is in existence. The PDP is a platform that is there, has been there, and will be there, and is going to run the elections. The PDP ran its own primaries above board.
But why don't we see the PDP speaking up is what my question is really about. I mean, this is another election cycle.
Yes.
And we're seeing the PDP very viable.
Let me talk about that. You
Yes.
had, let's talk about Lagos. In 2015, we won 8 seats in the House of Assembly. Under a year after, or about a year after, you had pressure to, and 7 of them defected to the ruling party. Now, those are members that should have been speaking for PDP. And that's why I said we're still at a rudimentary stage. So if you had 8 members who are speaking for the party, who, when they're talking about, passing law, like, they passed a law on the waste, where you put a collecting agency in the law, a specific collecting agency. If you had 8 of your members making noise about that. But because they had more or less bullied and enticed those members to join the ruling party, it means that they ensured that there was little or no opposition in the state.
But can I ask you this? Your critics would say that Olympic jibe, but the same is also said of PDP, that there's a lack of sincerity of purpose within the PDP regarding Lagos.
Why?
That PDP has effectively abandoned Lagos to the ruling party. Have you felt this way? Have you ever considered decamping? Since your aim is to serve Lagos and revolutionize Lagos, why not join those people that you say have been enticed and move to another party to further that aim?
You don't go to a party that you don't believe in.
Is there any ideological difference between PDP and APC in practical terms?
Let's say that I have an ideology. And for me, don't forget that I was on that side before I realized that there was nothing like democracy on that side. And that's why I moved to PDP, where there is more democracy. And what, if people look at it, in the PDP, you fight for what you want. On the other side, you wait to be anointed. Now, so for me, going back there is not an option, because on that side, it's got to be an anointing. But in the PDP, I can fight for what I want. Even the last primary, it wasn't easy. We had to fight for it. You don't do that on the other side. On the other side, you tell a sitting governor that it is not his time, it's time for him to step down, and you put somebody else.
All right, before we go quickly, are you open to a state debate? Because we hear that Sean Louis is actually a very smart and very charming man. Are you open to
It's not about being smart, it's not about being charming. I think it's about them coming up and saying, look, this is our record of 20 years, and we're ready for that debate. What have you done in 20 years? Don't come and give us promises any longer. Don't come and tell us that education is going to be better. Don't tell us that health is going to be better. Don't tell us that traffic is going to be better. Because you've had 20 years to do that.
So you're open to a debate?
I've never run away from a debate.
On that note, it's time now for a short break.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still with us in the studio is the People's Democratic candidate of Lagos State Gubernatorial candidate, Jimi Agbaje. Thank you so much for sticking with us.
Oh, pleasure.
Yes, all right. So, Lagos State is a microcosm in many Nigeria. Thank you very much. It comprises of the indigenous and Yoruba population, a very sizable Igbo population that is concentrated in several parts of the state. The Hausa community in places like Agege and several other ethnic groups. Every serious candidate who wanted to become governor of Lagos State targets each of these diverse groups to secure their votes. We know that you did this very effectively with the Igbo population in 2015. However, several Igbo traders today are very happy with what the current governor, Ambode, has done so far. In places like Ladipo and Alaba markets, etc. How do you intend to woo them to your side this time around?
Well, I hope you're right that they're very happy with what has happened to them. Don't forget that the complaint in Ladipo, in particular, in 2015, was one, you had such a big market. There were no toilet facilities, for example. You had a market as big as that, where there was no way of collecting waste. Now, this is a market that is generating waste on a minute-by-minute basis. Now, you don't have anything to collect waste. You don't have any way of helping them with waste. And then every 3-4 months, you shut it down and say it's too dirty. Now, the question is, are you being fair to them? Where are they supposed to carry their waste? Are they supposed to be the government to dispose of their waste? You had a situation where, on a regular basis, many of them lost their lives crossing from Ladipo to the other side, the Asmani end, because there was no pedestrian bridge there, and these are some of the issues. And then, of course, the normal problem of Lagos with its taxes, its levies, so they felt discriminated against. The question we'll be asking, is, have all this changed? 2019? So when we get back there, we will ask them, well, we're here again. We promised you this. We promised you toilet facilities. We promised waste management for you. We promised that we'll put a pedestrian bridge for you so that you don't lose your lives. We promised better organization for you. In fact, we promised a reorganization of the market in a way that you are more in control of your market rather than them looking at you just as a source of income like Lagos State tends to do. So that's what we're going to be selling to them. They are going to have to say what they have done in the last four years. So we believe that it's a base that remains ours, not for any other reason but the fact that we're offering them what they require. We appreciate what they contribute to the economy. And therefore, they will probably be more, they're more likely to come with us than go with those that have been there for 20 years and it's just been promises.
Campaigns have started in full gear. And when it comes to campaigns in Nigeria, we see everybody pulling the big guns to their campaign rallies. Someone like the Oba of Lagos plays a very significant role in who, so to say, becomes the next governor of the state. His statements, his comments, we've seen this in the past. But in all your attempts at being governor of the state, we've never seen the Oba of Lagos endorse you or talk about you. That's one. Your family is also a prominent one, we know that. Your brother heads one of the top banks in Nigeria. We don't also see your family at your rallies. We don't see them talk about you.
You want the MD of the bank to be at a rally?
I'm just saying, I mean, these endorsements go a long way in the political system in Nigeria, but we don't see that when it comes to you. How are you fixing all of that? Why don't we see them? For instance, the Oba of Lagos. Have you visited him? Have you gone for his blessings?
Well, in the first place, it wouldn't be right to say that the Oba of Lagos hasn't spoken about me because I think he did speak about me in 2015.
How about now? Have you gone for his blessings?
No, it's not about blessing, and I think we've got to get it right. You go out of respect for the traditional rulership. So normally when you go on campaigns and you're in an area, you go to the leadership, you go to the Obas where it's available, where it's possible, and that's the way it works. The Oba of Lagos happens to be my own Oba because I come from Isaleko. So it's not about blessing. By the fact that I am one of his is in itself, he doesn't really have much choice but to accept. He can't disown me, and that's the reality. But as a citizen, he has a right to choose or to prefer anybody else. So he is not so much an issue. As regards the family, I think we all operate in different ways. Again, when you mentioned my brother, I'm not sure that it would be good for his bank to be on one side, openly on one side, because he runs a bank that is owned by many people. So it's different from having, say, a musician who says, look, I'm supporting my brother or my uncle. He runs his own business and takes his own risks. I'm not sure that the chief executive of a bank has that luxury. But I can assure you that as to my family members, I do have support, and I don't have any one of them that is saying no, or at least they haven't come out to disown me, if anything. Because don't forget that if they do not support, then they'll be out there to disown you and say, well, we don't know anything about this. So, but I can tell you authoritatively that I have complete support, right from, I still have a mother, if you don't know. So I have her prayers, and I believe she's one of my prayer warriors. I have my friends, my immediate, my extended family that are very much with me, but everybody contributes in his or her own way.
All right, since you mentioned your mother, we know that by the time this election comes, next year you'll be 62.
Yes.
And your main opposition, Sanwo-Olu, is actually 53, or will be 53 by the time the election comes. And a lot of people actually wondering that since Lagos and those that you've been, like you said, you've been campaigning to, majorly youths, then the question now actually begs to ask that, wouldn't it be wise to actually tilt towards a youth-oriented candidate as against a man who is going to be turning 62? And how would you be able to appeal to this youth? And how would you be able to appeal to this digital generation, so to speak? Or what are we going to be having? Are we going to be having like a dinosaur in the State House come 2019?
Yeah. I think about the youth, I think what's important is more how you connect with them. I did tell you that I spent not just the last 4 years, but I believe for the last 10 years plus, trying to get the youth involved in, interested in politics, interested in succeeding. Like I say, I have this battle that, look, we must make our country better in a way that our youth are not thinking first and foremost of leaving this country. because if the good ones leave, then you are left with just the rubbish people, and the country will only get worse. So that's a personal campaign that I have run. So for me, I think what matters is that you are able to connect with them. You're working with them. If you look at my campaign, it's mainly run by the young ones. It's not, so it's about, look, it's about you. It's about today, it's about your future. And that's what matters. I'm able to tell them, and because you are comparing me with a 53-year-old, I'm able to tell them that, you know, when we arrive at decisions together, the buck stops on my table. In other words, whatever I decide will be so. I'm not sure that the other candidate can say that. So even if he makes promises, he's still got to get clearance from higher level, you know, and all those people who are working with him or who hope that something will happen, somebody somewhere is going to say, well, you know, this is going to be your cabinet. But if I say I'm going to have a cabinet, you know that the buck stops on my table. Right. I can't say the same for the other person.
All right, I want us to go back to this waste management issue, right? You know, there's so much controversy going on around Lagos with it. So how would you handle this differently?
Well, I think I said, you know, that you're going to have a combination. You're going to you have to recognize that you've got to create employment for the PSPs. You can't throw them away. And there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of work for them to do. You've got to recognize that your technology, your vehicles, your compactor trucks cannot get to most places in Lagos. And so they have a role to play. But having said that, there must be a way of moving the waste from you know, those inaccessible areas to where the compactor trucks can come, from there to the transfer loading stations, to waste management, and run the processes of waste to wealth and all. And so you need the two of them, you know, the likes of the Visionscape. And again, like I said, Visionscape was all shrouded in secrecy, as is normally done. But whatever it is that is there, you're going to have to make the best of it, because my understanding is that the agreement there is going to be very costly for government to just pull out, in the sense that the state government has guaranteed quite heavy sums, and pulling out could be difficult. So it's going to be, look, we've got a job to do.
So definitely.
So you're going to have to work together as much, unless, of course, you then see that they just don't have the capacity. In which case, hopefully, there will be a clause that, you know, puts them on the defensive. That's it, really. So we're going to use both. We're not throwing away the PSPs. We cannot afford to throw them away.
So you're not going
it's bad for government, and they become your responsibility. You know, so it's better to have somebody who's earning an income and you're providing health for, than somebody who doesn't have an income, because then you're talking about security issues, you're talking about so many other social issues that you don't need.
I'd like to go back and pick up two threads from earlier on in this conversation.
Sure.
First of all, the economy of Lagos.
Yes.
And then also the expectations of a megacity. If you were to assess the trajectory and development of Lagos State in almost 20 years, would you say that the state, in comparison to other megacities around the world, has been punching below its weight? And how would you envision Lagos State as a 21st century modern city, given the fact of a limited budget, in the opinion of the CEO of the National Bureau on Statistics? He came on this show a couple of months ago and disputed the claims by Lagos of this gargantuan economy of $90 billion. He claims that that is just not the case. Well, and that your assertion that the economy of Lagos amounts to the economy of Ghana and Kenya combined would now be called into question.
Well, so you begin to see the problem. Why we say that the Freedom of Information Bill must be domesticated. We can only work on figures that they throw at us. So it's either they stick with those figures or they do not. But if they say if they say that they are running 7 trillion naira, they spend 7 trillion naira, then we hold them by it and say, what have you done with 7 trillion? So you don't boast if you don't have those figures, because it's going to work against you. Now, if it's not 7 trillion, then you've got to. So first and foremost, they've got to get that FOI thing done, and that's one thing we're going to do, because we want to be open. But they have good reasons, or they have their reasons for not wanting to domesticate. But I don't think, like I said, in a mega city like this, like Lagos, that if I'm in any mega city today, don't forget that Lagos, they claim again that 1 million people come into Lagos every year. So the way you're going to run Lagos is very different from the way you're going to run, the states, any other state in Nigeria. And that's why it's important that we get it right. it's important that we ask that, look, if we're earning 7 trillion, because if you tell me you're making 7 trillion and it's just a boast, I'm asking that, but you're paying somebody, some private company, anything between 5% and 12%, you know, as agency fee or whatever fee. And I'm asking, that amount of money, you know, could do a lot of other things for Lagos. It's a bill that could work for health, could work for education, and it's just going into private pocket. Okay. And so these are some of the issues that come up.
Right. Well, let me jump in right here. You've been attempting to be the governor of the state. I would believe that you have some of this work already done. You should know the figures, what's happening in the state.
Yeah, we know. Well, we have our figures. But if the borough statistics person is even contesting, it just tells you the problem that we have in Lagos. It shouldn't be in Lagos.
Okay, so my question to you now is, you've chosen the running mate, who is Mrs. Yemisi Busari.
Busari, correct.
We have known her to be a professional all her life, nothing about politics.
Yes.
One will wonder why you decided to go with Mrs. Yemisi Busari, because we've seen running mates who bring something to the table. Maybe they're grounded in economics, they're grounded in health, or there's something, you know, that is pressing. One of the yearnings for the people, you know, that they can identify with in that person. Some say you have only chosen Mrs. Yemisi Busari as a running mate to pull the gender card.
No, not at all. In fact, for me, she comes in on her own strengths. You must read her profile. Here is a seasoned lawyer. She's a good company secretary. She's a mother. She's a wife. She's she's a member of different boards. So she's a very good representative of the organized private sector, and that's important. She's a woman of faith, and more importantly for me, I need a running mate. I mean, I've always been someone that feels that you need a running mate that can do your job. Most of the other parties look for a running mate that would be what they call a spare tire. I'm not looking for a spare tire. I'm looking for somebody that could take my place easily. Even since she came on board, I'm sure you probably have an opportunity to talk to her one day. Even in the short time she's been on board, I've dumped her at the deep end of the pool and said, you know what? Well, I'm not going to be at that forum. You better be there.
And how did she
There's a forum today, for example, that I'm not going to be. And I said, well, my deputy, you're going to be there.
You think she'll be able to play the politics? I mean, she's never been in politics.
Look, I didn't come from, I'm not your everyday politician either. But I think we've got to bring people from outside that cocoon.
And don't you think that that's why you've not been able to win this seat? No,
I've not been able to win because the powers that be feel that I'm not good for their interests. That's the only reason. It's not because I'm not capable. It's not because I'm not qualified to be. It's that Jimmy's not going to play ball. And I'm saying that I'm not going to play ball. And that Jimmy's going to get there on his own steam. And that's why I said that I'm going to get there on my own steam, because I want the buck to stop on my table. And that's the only reason why it's been difficult. But we're going to, I say it's like the Berlin Wall. It didn't fall the day it fell. People kept hitting at it. And the last day when it fell, it was just a push, and it fell. And that's going to happen in 2019.
All right, taxation has been a big issue in Lagos State. I want to hear your take on taxation in Lagos State. Of course, the recent of them was the Land Use Act and the property tax in Lagos State. What's your take on taxation in Lagos State? Some Lagosians feel they're overtaxed, that almost everything is taxed. And also, give us your take on this property tax that of 2018.
Well, let me put it like this. Lagos has one fault. And one thing you can say, and I'm not somebody that will say something, I see something good and say it's not good. One thing I can say for Lagos is that Lagos has succeeded in having a good IGR. That's the good part. The bad part is that Lagos has also looked at regulation, as a means of taxation, which shouldn't be. And therefore, it's important that we separate it. If I want to get a building plan, I'm supposed to pay some fees, but don't make it so prohibitory. Don't make it so high that I run away from getting a building plan because I can't afford it. Now, and that's the same thing with the land use charge that you're talking about.
Yes.
There was an arrogance about it. it's like nothing can happen. We can increase it 400, 500%. They would just shout, and that would be it. It shouldn't be. It shows the arrogance of government that you can do anything and get away with it in Lagos because there is no viable opposition. That's their thinking, But then that's what's playing out. So for me, taxation should not, regulation should not be, or income generation should not be the driving force behind regulation. Regulation must be regulation for the purpose of regulation. That is not to say that you do not earn money. So definitely the issue of property tax, in fact, it's all hanging now because the law hasn't been amended officially, but there is a statement that says, well, you can pay as you want, that kind of thing. So we've got to put that right. Definitely that was out of order.
So now, coming about the general taxation in Lagos State, what's your take about it?
Too many levies, too many places to tax. If I pay tax, I don't want somebody coming to ask me and saying that I have to pay radio and TV tax of 100,000 naira. I'm asking, why should I pay 100,000 naira for radio and TV? Local government comes and says, you have to pay this tax and that tax. And I'm asking, why should it be so? So what I'm getting at is that we've got to streamline that. Again, I intend to be governor, so I'm not going to say that people are not going to pay tax. So we're going to pay tax.
Because I was going
Nobody
to say,
likes it.
isn't that how Lagos gets the IGR you're so proud of?
No, what I'm saying
the
is that, no, then they push it too much.
Too much?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
pushing it too much. And that's why I'm saying that the land use one was a bit too much.
Let me ask you,
Was too
because
much.
it would be so unfair to most of our viewers if we don't ask you this question.
What's that?
On Saturday, Lagos residents woke up to a tweet and a video from you saying your posters had been vandalized.
Oh, okay.
We've had reaction from the APC in the state. But before then, we've seen yourself and the APC candidates, Sanwo-Olu, exchange pleasantries, wishing yourself well, good luck in the elections.
Sure.
We also saw you attending a praise concert.
Yes.
So it was absurd to wake up on Saturday to see a tweet and a video complaining about your posters vandalized.
Well, the video was not even from us. I think it was just, a citizen passing and seeing what happened.
What was happening.
And maybe I believe we retweeted it so that people will know what's going on. You see, the problem of the other side is that it's not so much maybe the candidate. And that's why I said that we're talking about freedom. He probably doesn't know anything that's going on there. It's those that are, shall I say, pulling the strings that are at work. He probably doesn't know anything.
Can you be specific? Who are the people pulling the strings?
Oh, there are many out there, quite a number out there. We'll leave that for some other time.
And they're not Lagosians, you're going to say, right?
Well, they're Lagosians, they stay
I
there.
mean, like, not the citizens, not the people.
No.
The people.
They're Lagosians. Let's put it like that. But what I'm getting at is that it was important for me, at least on my side, to show Lagos, to show Nigeria that politics must be about issues. It's not about do or die. And so it was important for myself and himself to be seen in the public so that those who want to kill themselves know that, look, you want to kill yourself, these guys are smiling.
A friend.
I paid the price for that, but I don't have any apologies. The price is, oh, Jimi has been settled. You see, he's smiling with the other candidate. He's been settled, but it's okay. And so for me, when you see us together, smile and shake hands, it's telling the people that you don't need to die for it. And so the issue of the board, in fact, that the boards were destroyed the night we were together at the unusual praise, in the sense that, he probably left, he left before me, maybe he left about past 1 or 2. I left there about an hour later, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we were there, friends shaking hands and all. And then you are then told at 4 a.m. that your boards have been destroyed. But like I said, I don't believe that he knew anything about it. And that's the reality. But those who are above him, so to say, probably know what happened.
Those you have refused to name.
All
But
right.
going into this election, what is your biggest fear? Do you have any fears at all?
Well, it's not so much fair. I think it's challenge. It's important that we have credible elections. It's important that we are able to run elections where we encourage as many people as possible to come out to vote. And then, of course, that INEC will play its part. That's very important. You see, all the efforts come to naught on election day if it's not done well. You know, it's like your entire preparation just collapses on that day. So for me, it's that on election day, we should go out there, we should ensure that the voters register is correct. All those who are entitled to, who have their PVCs, have their names on the voters register, that on election day, the card readers will work, that on election day, the voting will be done, that people will be allowed to know their votes. On election day, that INEC will play its part, that on election day, we do not have the government agencies, the security agencies being partisan. And that's very important for me.
All right. Is this going to be your last attempt? Just in case you don't, would you still take a shot again?
Yeah. You know, it's a
2023?
loaded question, and I'll tell you why it's loaded. Because the last time, you know, people said, I said I wasn't going to run again.
Exactly.
But I think it's good to put it in proper perspective. That interview was conducted immediately after I voted. So it wasn't after the results were released. Okay. You know, I left the polling booth, and the TV journalist followed me home and asked me that question. And basically it was along the line of, look, I don't really plan to run again because anyway I'm going to win, so what are you talking about running again if I lose? So that was it. But then it was aired after the results had been announced. And so for a lot of people, it was like, oh, poor Jimmy, because he's lost elections, he says he's not running again.
So about this time?
So I'm just putting it in proper perspective. Let me put it like this. I've been taught in politics never to say, I'll never do this. Now, if you ask me, I'll say, at what, 66 to run for Lagos? That's not likely. Definitely not. And I actually tried in the last 4 years. Again, I'll say this, because when you talk about not doing anything for 4 years, in the last 4 years, after 2015, I tried to get younger indigenous Lagosians who I felt could run for governor of Lagos. Unfortunately, I didn't get those that were ready to really give what it's required. A number of those that would have come in were not indigenous Lagosians, and I think we're still at a sensitive stage where if you want to get somebody to run for governor, forget the ruling party that have decided that they're going to take non-indigens because they believe that they can bully their way through. But I think for an opposition party, it's important that we get an indigenous Lagosian to run. And I didn't get the young ones. So I'm hoping that the same way we've been able to encourage more young ones to be interested in politics, we will get somebody else. But I'm going to win this one anyway.
All right. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thank you very
All
much.
the very
Thank you.
best.
Thank you very much.
It's time now for a short break on the morning show.